The Cubs back in the win column after a masterful outing from Shota Imanaga and a big game from Nico Hoerner. Could Nico Hoerner be playing his last games in a Cub uniform? Is he auditioning for some new teams? Is he going to be on a new team come August? We're going to talk about that and more on this edition of the Cubs Baseball channel. Make sure to like and subscribe, get in that comment section. Let us know how you're feeling about this team that dropped a series to the Diamondbacks heading out of the All-Star break. Now, here's your invitation to our show. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Cubs Baseball channel. My name is Anthony Pasquale, and you can find me on Twitter at ant_Pasquale3. You can also find the Cubs Baseball channel on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. There you see it at the bottom there, Cubs Baseball channel on those three platforms. Make sure to follow us, engage with us on there. We're going to be posting some of our clips from, these episodes that we do on YouTube, these shows, and hopefully we can drive up the followers on there and have some conversations exclusively on there and try to build up those pages as well as we continue to find more people to talk about the Cubs. But I missed you guys. It's been a couple of weeks or a couple of days as I was out for the weekend. I was in Hilton Head, South Carolina, enjoying a nice weekend down there. But I also was in Savannah for a little bit, and I got this pretty cool shirt, the Savannah Bananas. I'm not sure if you guys are a fan or even know about what they're doing down there, but it's a really interesting brand of baseball. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a ticket to the game because the scalpers were selling them for like over $200, and it just wasn't very cost friendly for everything else going on the trip. But I saw the shirt and I felt like I had to pick it up just because they're growing our great game of baseball. It's played a little bit differently, but nonetheless, it is baseball, and for that reason, I love it. But let's get into it. Cubs coming off a win yesterday, obviously heading into the All-Star break with some momentum. Then you get the All-Star break, you come right back hoping to keep a hot streak going and potentially avoid selling at this year's trade deadline by stringing together a couple of more win series and proving that you could make some noise, right? Well, they really fell on their face coming out of the break. A loss to the Diamondbacks on Friday, a shutout loss on Saturday, and this team just hasn't looked like they have it coming out of the All-Star break, and especially losing to a team in the Arizona Diamondbacks that you are chasing in the wild card. It just makes all of the reasons that point to selling more magnified as we get a little bit closer to that trade deadline day by day. Each loss makes more sense for that to be the decision that the Cubs go to. But then on Sunday, they grind out a great win against the Arizona Diamondbacks and win 2-1. Shota Imanaga pitched brilliantly. He went 7 innings, allowed just 2 hits. One of them was a home run, which gave the Diamondbacks a 1-0 lead. He had a career high 10 strikeouts, and he lowered his season ERA to 2.86 on the season. Imanaga, unfortunately, did not come away with the win because when he exited, the Cubs were losing the ball game, but he was sensational. The bullpen came in and delivered 3 no-hit, no base runner innings for the first 2, and then Hector Neris did allow a walk in the 10th. He actually comes away with a win. That's his 8th of the season, tying Imanaga for the most on this Cubs team. But Imanaga was excellent. The bullpen was excellent. And if you don't believe me, the Cubs had a graphic on Marquee yesterday. The Cubs actually have the best bullpen according to earned run average in baseball since June 27th. So Jed Hoyer has taken a lot of flack for not building this team good enough to make the playoffs this year, and I think that's deservedly so. However, him and Theo both have displayed this unbelievable ability to take bad bullpens and turn them into league average or better by around this time. Like last year, it was Mark Leiter Jr., Julian Merriweather, and Adbert Alzolay coming together around this point last year. It really propelled the Cubs on their run because they had an answer for the 7th, 8th, and 9th. Well, yesterday, Imanaga pitched 7th, but the Cubs played a 10-inning ball game. So 8, 9, and 10 were Mark Leiter Jr., Porter Hodge, and Hector Neris, and all 3 were excellent yesterday. The Cubs have found some reliability back there. Obviously, Luke Little and Hayden Wesneski going down hurts. Obviously, Ben Brown being on the injured list hurts. Assad being on the injured list for a while hurts. Some guys have to move around. Drew Smiley has been reliable. Hunter Biggie has gone up and down and been good. Ethan Roberts as well. Uh, there's a lot of different names that you can give some credit to. Jorge Lopez has stepped in and done a really nice job since he's been acquired. Another guy, Tyson Miller, since he's been acquired, has been very good back there. So the Cubs have a bullpen that is no longer laughable. The issue is the offense, as it did yesterday, sometimes falls asleep and does so for extended period of time. Only 4 runs in a 3-game series with Arizona. That isn't going to be good enough. But when the offense was good, like it was before the All-Star break against Baltimore and St. Louis, this team looks like they could be a playoff team. Obviously, the consistency hasn't been there this season. That's why you have to think about moving some pieces and retooling for the future. But this bullpen could be becoming a strength potentially as early as the 2025 season or even as early as the back half of this one. But let's get into this here. Nico Hoerner was the hero yesterday. But could his days in Chicago be numbered? Is he a guy that the Cubs are going to float at the trade deadline and try to maximize their return on as they try to build toward the future of Cubs winning baseball? Mick has said it over and over again. If you don't look at this team and think that they can win a World Series, then you have to make some changes to allow your team to get to a point where you think they can win a World. And if you think trading Nico Hoerner is the way to get there, then that's something you need to explore. Obviously, Hoerner is young, 26, 27 years old, elite defense at second base, above league average defense at shortstop, good arm, really good bat to ball skills, good contact hitter, is still coming into form as a leadoff man, but can certainly be a leadoff guy in your lineup. Strong contact skills, and yesterday he was the hero. Bottom of the 9th inning, he sets the table with a leadoff double, moves to third on a ground out, and eventually comes in to score on a Seiya Suzuki RBI single to tie the game. Then, with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 10th inning, Hoerner comes up, draws a walk, and the Cubs win. So he had the game-tying run scored and drove in the game-winning run. Fitting that in a game that featured hardly any offense, the walk-off run was scored on ball 4. That's just kind of how it was for the Cubs yesterday. But they grinded out a win, and Nico Hoerner was a big reason why. Now, could his days in Chicago be numbered? He is under control through 2026. He makes a lot of sense to be a part of a winning team. Great defense, a solid offensive player. He's a guy that the Cubs extended because they thought they could build around him. But you're at a point right now where he is a guy that you could potentially trade. Now, there are some teams that are definitely going to be interested. So if you get the right offer, maybe Hoerner's a guy you could explore moving. I would hate to trade him, but I'm just looking at the baseball operations side of this. The Cubs have a lot of guys in this system that can play second base. Obviously, these aren't your long-term answers, but Miles Mastroboni and Nick Madrigal both can play there. Not saying those are your answers, but beyond that, both Matt Shaw and James Triantos, who the Cubs prospects, the media, everybody is super high on these guys. Shaw with more of a power bat, traditional, and Triantos elite bat to ball skills. Shaw, third baseman, second baseman type. Triantos more of a middle infielder. Could one of those guys be your second baseman of the future? Christopher Morel doesn't seem to be finding a home at third base. Could he be a guy you explore at second base? What if you want to go out and get Vladimir Guerrero Jr. or Pete Alonso and put them at first base? What are you going to do with Michael Busch? Could he be your second baseman? So you have a lot of internal answers at second base if you need them, which would make trading Nico Hoerner hurt a little bit less. The other thing is there was a really good second baseman traded this season. The Padres acquired Luis Arraez from the Marlins very early in the year, so they took advantage of a market that hadn't yet set itself, and they still paid a pretty hefty price for a guy like Luis Arraez. Arraez is going to be a free agent after the 2025 season, and it took 3 top 15 system prospects and a reliever to get Arraez from the Marlins to the Padres. Hoerner has an extra year of control. He's controlled through 2026, so that should make his stock even a little bit higher. And now that we're getting close to not only the trade deadline, but the playoff push, teams are going to be a little bit more desperate. I think the Cubs could get 3 to 4, maybe even 5 players in a trade. I think you could get potentially a top 10 system prospect, maybe a top 100 guy, and 2 other top 15 prospects, and then a major league player. I think that's something that you could acquire for Nico Hoerner. And if the Cubs feel like they get a return that justifies the value that Nico Hoerner provides on their team, that might be a move that the Cubs are willing to pull the trigger on. So we'll have to keep our eyes open. But Nico Hoerner, if the Cubs decide to make him available, would be a very attractive name on this year's market, especially because there's so many teams that are right in the thick of it that there's going to be a lot of buyers, not a lot of sellers. The Cubs could take advantage of a team that thinks they need a shortstop or a second baseman to put them over the hump to win the World Series. And Nico Hoerner could be that guy for one of those teams. Now, as we look forward, the Cubs take on the Brewers this week after dropping that series against the Diamondbacks. They currently trail the Brewers by 10 games in the National League Central. Their wild card deficit is only 3.5 games, but still there's 6-7 teams to jump. Currently, the Braves and the Cardinals hold spots. The Mets, Diamondbacks, and Padres are all tied for that third wild card spot. The Pirates are a half game back. The Giants are 3, and then the Cubs are 3.5 games back in the wild card. As it stands right now, the Cubs have an 8.4% chance to make the playoffs and a measly 2.1% chance to win the division. Now, as we go and continue through this season, series by series, the Cubs can make it more likely or less likely that they trade or sell, I should say, at the deadline. Sweeping Baltimore makes it less likely to sell. Dropping 2 out of 3 to Arizona makes it more likely to sell. This series against Milwaukee could potentially be a make or break type of series in terms of Jed Hoyer's decision making. Come out there and dominate the Brewers, maybe we think about this team potentially making a run. If the offense goes quiet and the pitching isn't as strong as it's been, maybe you think about gutting this roster. So it's one of those things that's going to continue to jockey as we go throughout July. But we're less than 10 days away from that trade deadline, and the Cubs have to be thinking about making a decision fast because these moves take a little while to get done. So we'll see how it goes. But the Cubs play the Brewers tonight at home. It's ISU night at Wrigley Field, Illinois State University. Cubs take on the Brewers at 7:05. Javier Assad making his second start back after being activated off the injured list in his first start since the All-Star break. He's 4-3 on the season with a 3.27 ERA. That ERA jumped a little bit after that start against St. Louis. He wasn't particularly sharp in his first outing back, but he's been a guy that's been super reliable for the Cubs this season, and hopefully he can get back to pitching that way as he continues to recover and get back stretched out. He'll be up against Tobias Myers. He's 6-3 on the year with a 3.13 ERA on the season. The Cubs faced him a few times earlier this year. Morel has a homer against him. Nico Hoerner has a home run against him. Michael Busch has a home run against him. So those are some names to keep an eye out in tonight's game. On the other side of things, the Brewers have had a little bit of trouble with Javier Assad. A few guys are 1-for-3 or 1-for-4 against him, but nobody has any numbers that really stand out. So hopefully Assad can get going early, start mowing down the Brewers, and the Cubs can put some runs on the board to take game 1 of this series and potentially cut into that 10-game deficit that they enter the series with behind the Brewers. But guys, thank you so much for joining us here on the Cubs Baseball channel. I missed you guys over the weekend. Happy to be back talking some Cubs baseball with you. So make sure to like and subscribe, ring the bell, get in the comment section. Let us know how you're feeling about this team. Let's talk. Let's talk Cubs. Let's talk trades. And if you don't want to do it on YouTube, do it on Twitter or TikTok or Instagram, because we are on there and we'll be talking to you guys on there as well. But for now, thank you guys for tuning into the Cubs Baseball channel. We will talk to you tomorrow. Go Cubs.